You are listening to Radio Alamundi.
Hi there, wherever you are. I'm Marco Rixiker, a freelance writer, reporter, producer, teacher, translator, tour guide, poet, singer, and songwriter. I speak several languages, and I'm the creator and founder of Radio Alamundi, an evolving podcast station where no language and all languages are spoken. It's a multilingual mix of music, poetry, lectures, languages, interviews, documentaries, recipes, and a lot more, co-produced with the students of the Alamundi International Cultural Center. You can find us on radioalamundi.bandcamp.com, podcasts.apple.com, Spotify, YouTube, Breaker, Player FM, Facebook. Search Radio Alamundi. Researching international and traditional music for various kinds of radio projects, I sort of stumbled upon a YouTube channel one evening, and there is a clip in which a woman by the first name of Daria and with an unpronounceable last name performs a children's song in Quechua, the predominant indigenous language in Peru. So I bookmarked the website and let it rest for a while, in a manner of speaking. Then weeks, maybe even months later, I go back to the YouTube channel and explore it a little bit more. Finally, I come to the conclusion that the woman behind that project must be a real character and would be nice to do an interview with. So I use a contact link on her website to send her an interview request, which gets a quick response. Eventually, on a hot summer evening, we sit down in different parts of the world to have a nice chat for quite a while. Daria is speaking from a little home studio in rural Pennsylvania. So, the following narrative includes excerpts from a collection of testimonies and interviews entitled Let's Talk About It Anywhere in the World, where it is all about people's voices, accents, and speech patterns, hand in hand with my own personal anecdotes and observations. In addition to that, people are allowed to introduce themselves in their respective, often indigenous languages and dialects, and to speak their minds freely, without any paraphrases or expectations. So, let the story go on from there. Children are a key focus of Daria's work as an artist, educator, and performer. And she candidly discusses her deep motivations and profound reasons for that. She explains to me that she hasn't had much of a childhood, and abuse was sort of a norm. At the same time, she completely stands by her cultural background. She's of Ukrainian descent and married to a man with Greek heritage. So, going from one question to the next, from comment to comment and statement to statement, there seems to be a story attached to each of those in the course of our online conversation. And Peru seems to be sort of a common denominator. Daria has lived there for quite a long time and has learned Spanish and Quechua, two of the many languages that she performs in. And she seems to have gained quite a celebrity status in the process. But we don't focus on accolades as much as we do on her personality. Prior to the interview, she even asked me if it was going to be audio or video. The former guarantees a better online connection with less data use. The latter allows for more of a human touch and, eventually, makes it possible for Daria to play some of her fanciest and strangest musical instruments. In the course of the video conversation we both have opted for in the end. It almost feels like a virtual workshop, as part of which Daria holds up the instruments and explains to me how to play them. That's precisely one of the things she often does with children, she tells me. She loves to organize workshops that allow kids to engage with her instruments, make their own, and learn how to play and perform traditional songs in all kinds of languages. It is a way of building bridges between cultures, a phrase that I'm going to repeat several times during the interview with Daria. There are many common denominators that allow people to communicate beyond verbal language, such as food, music, toys, instruments, and so on. Anyway, as part of my online conversations with people, I try to include the surrounding scenery of our locations, sort of bringing distant places and time zones together. The same goes for my interview with Daria, whose voice ends up sounding like a postcard from rural America before she formally introduces herself.
I am on a farm in Pennsylvania. This is kind of where my family lives. And, I used to be able to travel abroad. I had grown up in Peru and I would go back every year. And my husband's from Greece. We were able to visit his family there. And I've done workshops in the Middle East, all over the world, but always coming home. And it's nice to have a home base, however humble it may be. We're on top of a mountain with a little flock of sheep. So it's just, it's a little bit of a tough life, but it's a good life. My name is Daria. Well, I use the name Daria because my full name is Daria Marmaluk Haziawano. And that's such a big name, nobody wants to pronounce it. So I just simply, kids, adults, anyone in the audience, they just call me, hey, Daria. And that's quite fine with me. It's only 5 letters. It's easy to yell out. And my last name, Marmaluk, was from the Ukraine. My grandfather crossed the ocean in the early 1920s and 30s and became a miner. And he died of black lung in the coal fields of Pennsylvania. My husband, the Hatsiawano, was Hatsiawanides from the island of Ikaria in Greece. So, we've lived together, had our children together. They've traveled the world to many of the places from our families or from, our extended families. And, it's been an exciting life. I was born here, but then through a kind of strange set of circumstances, grew up in rural Peru, speaking Quechua and Spanish. And I would say that affected me more than anything that happened here. The way Quechua people live their life, their language, their sense of community is a stronger influence on me than really anything I found here. And to me, it's kind of the missing link of modern society, is remembering who your people are, remembering why you belong to a group, remembering what you owe them, and feeling that they are there as your safety net. It's something pretty amazing. And I hope through world music to kind of build that sense of dignity for all the peoples of the world, rather than a looking down one's nose at those people there or those people there or those that speak differently or those that look differently. I'm hoping kids have the opportunity in my music to see the beauty and the dignity of the cultures that I sing from.
First of all, let's make one fact clear here. Daria herself declares that her last name is unpronounceable, which is why she simply goes by her first name. She speaks several languages and uses them to bring the word to children. As part of performances and publications, she simply signs off with her first name. Her repertoire is mostly based on traditional songs from around the world, and she is more than happy to tell her audience their respective stories. The same goes for our online conversation. Daria sounds eager and hyper-motivated to share all kinds of stories, sounds, and songs with me. I also make sure we explore her cultural background, some biographical sketches, and especially favorites in the fields of food, language, music, toys, games, and songs. She also immediately mentions her upbringing in rural Peru, which is the reason why my first couple of questions aim to explore languages and her use of them. How many languages do you speak?
Well, there's 8, but I'd really consider myself fluent at the 3, at English, Spanish, and Quechua. And it's the Quechua of Cusco, Callao, which is kind of spoken in Quito and in places in Bolivia. But my relatives, my godmother's from Ancash, and we can understand each other. We just have a little bit of a different dialect.
Everything in our conversation includes a performance beyond questions and answers, whether it is Daria playing some of her fanciest musical instruments, reciting or singing poems, verses, and songs, or telling stories and jokes. So performing is second nature to her, and that is why she gets along with kids so well. It's a good thing that she and I have decided that our online interview should be a video session, so that I can see her play and perform. In addition to that, she loves to gesticulate with her hands and facial expressions a lot. And that is an extra human touch no words or phrases can convey. Music and languages will be recurrent key topics throughout our conversation. In terms of languages, there are those Daria can speak and even dream in, and then there are those she's able to perform in. Especially the latter have an exotic touch and tend to be indigenous. Good craftsmanship is one of Daria's skills when she shows me some of the musical instruments she has made herself. And again, there always seems to be a colorful anecdote attached to it all. Her motivation to work with children is based on the fact that she was deprived of happiness during her own childhood. She grew up in an abusive home. In loops and bounds, that eventually landed her in rural Peru, which is where she learned Quechua and Spanish. Multilingual people might be aware of the way languages tend to sound to others, but Daria makes sure to set the record straight, refraining from choosing a favorite language, which would be like picking your favorite child. What is your favorite language in the world?
Boy, it's really hard that's like, what is your favorite child? You know, certain things bring out, to me, like Ladino is so beautiful, it's so celebrational. But Quechua, to me, it just has so many memories. And it's such a beautiful language. And I would have to say it's my favorite also because people are being asked not to speak it anymore. And by standing up for it, hopefully we can encourage people to continue to speak it. When I lived in Peru, they said that tourism was 80% of the budget, something like that. And yet, I think it was Belo would not declare Quechua a national language. Now, you can't get 80% of the profit from something and not want to at least give some respect and dignity to the language spoken by the majority of your indigenous population. It's so important. You can't take the one side and not get something back. It's a beautiful language. Many countries govern bilingually. It's possible. And to uphold that and keep it together, that's something we need to do. We don't need to destroy more languages because when you destroy the language, you destroy the culture. Language is a medium for not just the words we say, but the way we live.
English is Daria's native language, but in an emotional sort of way, Quechua is what she feels strongest about. Maybe it's because it brought her the joy, happiness, music, and games she was deprived of and loves to share with her audience, and especially children as a performer. So Daria talks about Quechua as if it was her mother tongue. She was completely immersed into it in rural Peru, which is the reason why she remembers even having dreamed in that language. Which languages are you able to dream in?
Oh my goodness, I have dreamed. It's funny you asked that because I have dreamed one time the entire dream in Quechua, and I woke up kind of wondering where I was because the place I woke up didn't match the language. But and sometimes you dream beyond words. Sometimes you dream only in feelings. And time spent with the Lenape here has had me dream into animals. You know, I think that whatever you kind of seep yourself into, you know, whatever is part of your, you know, your spiritual practice, your day-to-day life, I think that kind of gets into your dreams. It's not so much the language, it's kind of the soul and the spirit that's kind of, you know, like the wind blows through the flute. That's how your cultural influences come through you, and then it comes out in your dreams or your songs or your daily life.
Daria and I also discussed the differences between childhood and adulthood. To her, the line between the two is blurred, which would explain that her work and performances are geared towards an ageless audience, still, with a particular focus on children. How grown up do you feel today?
You know, I really love that. I love working with children because you feel you can, for me, I can be my full self. I can be silly. I can be playful. I don't have to worry about the trappings most people have as adults of like, oh, are you fancy? Do you have a degree? Do you know, there's not that posturing and positioning. When a child comes up and he says, I love that instrument, or I learned this in school, or I knew that song, I can genuinely respond, that is so cool. Tell me more. And I think that many times, you know, so-called children's artists I call them jazz hands artists. They just kind of, let's be kooky. And I just feel like you're cheating the child of your genuine experience of, I love being here with you. I am singing songs that require you to play with me, that require you to sing or laugh or add a part. I am here because you're here, and that's genuine. I'm not putting on a funny persona just to kind of get through a show or to make a paycheck.
What's the difference between growing up and growing old to you?
I think Pete Seeger answered that question. You know, what to that song, Be Kind to Your Parents? Oh, it's about growing old and remember that grown-ups is a difficult stage of life. I think that if you're learning something every day, you know, if you're going somewhere, you're teaching someone, if you're learning something, it never grows old. And growing old to me would be kind of like losing your enthusiasm or losing your faith or losing the capacity to see things in a new way. And when you do that, I think you're doing yourself a disservice and certainly your work a disservice. You know, kids are coming to this world with lots of challenges. They need all the positivity and all the enthusiasm we can bring to them.
What was your favorite children's game?
Oh, my goodness. You know, one of the reasons I ended up in Peru was because I grew up in an abusive family. So there really weren't children's games. And I guess I had to then create with my audiences and with my children kind of new memories because there certainly were none for me. And that might account for my passion for it and my joy in it. But I love doing a powwow drum with kids. What we do is we create a big drum we hold between everyone's hands, and then you try to play a certain rhythm, and the group has to play the same rhythm. And it starts simple and then it gets complicated. And then whoever starts, then they pass the baton on to the beater on to the next person. So it's kind of drumming and it's fun, but it's also challenging. And I love when I do it with kids. I always say, hand it to someone that hasn't had a turn. So you're teaching these kind of innate leadership skills. Oh, she didn't get a turn. Oh, he didn't get a turn. We don't want to leave them out. We don't want to do that. Or that was great. You did. Oh, you're not listening to the way he's doing it. Let's do that over. And then they try to fake each other out with the way they play. But that would be my favorite game, is any of the drumming games. And it teaches stealth learning. It teaches drumming. It teaches listening. It teaches cooperation. All these things are happening while you think you're just going, can you play this song? Okay. Did you hear it right? Okay, can you repeat it? I have a talking drum here that was used to communicate over long distances. I don't have the exact beater, but... So this drum would be used in Africa, and over a long distance, it could communicate whether come here, there's something special, or there's a terrible thing, or there's a wedding, and they would know each other's sounds and signals so well that there were no voices, just simply drum beats and drum vocalizations. So yes, absolutely. I'm absolutely fascinated by that because people did amazing things without the modern technology we have now, and they did quite well. Thank you.
So Daria likes to explore ageless and timeless uses and practices of arts and crafts beyond concepts such as childhood and adulthood. To her, there is no difference between the two, and especially her musical performances tend to reflect that. In addition to that, Daria's career is based on things she was deprived of when she was a child, and which she tries to compensate by sharing joy, music, and games with children all over the world. What was your favorite children's song or nursery rhyme?
So again, there really was little music in my house, so I had to kind of look outside of it, which is kind of a good thing because I think instead of getting one culture, I ended up learning from different cultures and looking for that. And I remember going south in Appalachia, and I learned the song Aiken Drum. There was a man comes from the moon. His name was Aiken Drum. And it's a children's song because the lady that sang it to me, she taught me the interaction. It said his head was made of, and then the kids say, well, his head was made of an orange or a pizza. And then she said, what was his neck made of? And, oh, his neck was a string bean. What were his shoulders? They were potatoes. But you go through this whole thing and you get the kids laughing. And then at the end, this children's song says, does anyone remember what we made him of? So it was a memory game. His head was made of pizza, pizza, pizza. His neck was made of string beans. So I love that because every time you play that game, it's different. And every time you play with a new audience, they don't realize that you're going to ask them at the end to bring the whole person back together.
Daria is not an expert scholar or scientist, but she speaks with the experience of someone who knows what makes children tick. How does a child's brain work, actually?
Well, I think that I'm in no ways an expert. I just know what kids enjoy, and they love to learn through play. So any way you can challenge them by call and response, by games like that, by games that are in sequence where you start A, B, C, D, where you do counting numbers, where you rhyme. Will you wear blue, my dear old dear? Will you wear blue, Jenny Jenkins? No, I won't wear blue because blue is on you and I buy me a. So you teach these things by kind of challenging them. And I find that when you kind of trust their ability, that they rise to the occasion. When you ask them to rhyme certain things, let's write another verse. Will you wear green? I won't wear green because it'll never be seen. I won't wear red because I wear it on my head. But you get them to the point where they go, ooh, I could do that. I'm good at rhyming. I can understand the cadence of it. So anything that I think challenges a child gets them, it starts their brain learning. And, to that point, I would do this with my kids all the time and make up songs and this and that. And then when my son turned to be a teenager, he would come up with terrible versions and he would come out and help me on the road. Before I would do a song, he would sing a terrible version of a song. And then it would get stuck in my head and I'd be like, oh no, I'm not going to sing a bad version of that song in front of the audience. But it's like, it's coming back to haunt you, Mom. But it taught him how to be a really good parody writer. And he went on to really love like people like Weird Al Yankovic that write a lot of parodies. And he grabs the music and adds his own lyrics. And he's become a very creative writer. And I think kids will do that. Give them the opportunity to tell them to add to a song, to add a verse to the song. And I mean, if you look at it too, even songs like La Bamba, there were no written words. That was a song done at weddings. And like the DJ or the singer, he would be commenting on the crowd, and he would be saying, oh, there's your uncle. He can barely stand, ba, 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 ba. But then it would go, ba, la bamba, and everything would come back like a carnaval in Peru. There's a chorus, but then there'd be repeated lines and jokes back and forth. And so I think that if you open songs up to kids in the way they were intended, they jump in and participate. It's just that most people are presented, here's a song, it's on a record, it's just like that. And I think that's not exactly how singing to one another or singing those nursery rhymes and children's games work. They work and they teach us. A song heard on the radio is kind of a poor substitute for singing with your child or playing with your child.
So it is all about curiosity and empathy. It took a while for Daria to acquire those skills, but now she knows how to handle and practice them. How did you learn all that stuff?
Well, I think that's kind of been a life's work, and just being hungry, always being interested, always wanting to go to a new place. And wherever I go, I take what I know and I share it. Then I ask, you share something with me. Teach me the song. I have cousins on the Jemez Pueblo. Teach me the song you would sing for that. I have their drum here. I lived in the Andes of Peru, in the mountains, right? But I have friends from the coast that were involved with Peru Negro and the whole Afro-Peruvian thing, like Quijada, Cajon, all Cajita I have here. All those things, you just say, I want to know, I want to learn, teach me a song, teach me how to play it, how to use my puñal or my fist to make that noise. How do you play it? Why do the teeth rattle in the sockets? And I found most of the time, I'd say 99% of the time, if you approach people with respect and they know you genuinely want to learn, they are open to sharing. They want that legacy to continue. And so, you end up in the mountains of Peru, but you're learning about music from the coast. You end up in the department of Cusco, but you're learning songs that are from Huancayo or Ancash. And they all play a part in understanding kind of the greater picture of the tapestry of the people, as opposed to just the people from this one spot, or just the people, that are agriculture, or just the people that are herders. The more you learn, just the broader your understanding of that tapestry is.
Again, Daria's work comes in many different and frequently indigenous languages, but it is all based on simplicity as a tool of learning and understanding, which inspires a series of questions I ask her in the middle of our conversation about favorites and superlatives. And her answers reveal a great deal about her as a colorful character. What's your favorite musical instrument?
I love the shakere, and I'm pretty sure I have one here, because I grow these in my garden, and I love something that kind of starts by your own hand. And then this one I didn't grow in my garden, but I grow many, and I share them with people. And this is from Africa. I'm going to move back so it's not loud. But I love, because it's like playing. All you can play it back and forth. You could burp it like a baby. I usually do songs like this that the kids can give interactive. I do a song where the kids, Here Comes Our Mothers, and it's about mothers bringing special treats from their time in town. And then I have the kids say, well, they'll bring strawberries or pineapples or cookies, or they'll bring gummy bears. And then they tell me, and I try to remember them and put them all in the song. And believe me, when I forget, they tell me. And that's just a fun thing of this. You can flip it, you can slide it, and you can hand it to a child and say, what would you do with it? And they'll come up with something different. They might come up with, oh, that's a nice instrument, but I can do that too. And I just love, to me, that's a window to how we created instruments how did someone know that this gourd sitting on the ground a year later would be dry enough so it could be actually resonant like that? And who would put a skirt, which is what this netting is? And if you put a skirt, and depending on what you put on that skirt, seeds, beads, the size of the beads are a completely different sound for each shakeré. So that's one of my favorite because it's so personalizable and so unique, and you can just kind of dance around and toss it. And I think the first person I saw playing it was the percussionist for Gil Scott-Heron, and I just loved his music, but the percussionist didn't stop dancing the whole show and never dropped his shakeré. And it's the kind of thing that you look at and go, one day I want to do that. And I have nowhere approached it, but I'm hoping I've just shown it to a lot of kids that this is just a beautiful tradition. Nature sings to us through this, and the craftsmanship and the creativity, and and music and moving. You know, you're not sitting there going, I will sing you a song. You're actually doing what we were meant to do, to stomp, to dance, to move. And kids need that more than ever. In my work with children with autism, they love the feel, the sensory feel of that. They love moving it across the surface. So it absolutely is both of those things at once.
What's your favorite toy?
Oh my goodness. It's very, very silly. I have a toy I bought from the Ukraine that when you hold it, the chickens all peck at the seeds. There's a little ball on the bottom and it spins around. So as it spins around, I wish I had it with me because it's endlessly fascinating, even though it's simple. You hold it and each one of the chickens peck in time. And we've had chickens on the farm, so it just reminds me of happy days. But again, somebody made, those kind of handheld toys. A grandfather, an uncle, someone carved it for the children to keep them creative, to keep them thinking, and also motor skills. It's just amazing. You have to hold it just like an ocean drum. You have to hold it a certain way in order to get that sound of the sea. So while we're having fun, while we're listening, while we're playing, while it's soothing, we're also learning, how to hold, how to gauge. It's faster, it's slower, just like a rain stick. How do you get that sound that's so quiet as opposed to something like that? But we're learning when we're doing it. It's one instrument, but the possibilities are really endless.
What's your favorite word or expression these days?
Well, this morning I was meeting with people I'll be working with in Peru, and they use the word Ayllu, which means our clan and our community, Iyyllu, Ayllu. But also Sonko, which means heart. And to me, Quechua words are just they're so rich in meaning. Sonko is heart, but it's my heart, my love. They're just, to me, the one word means in Spanish as well, there's so many words that just mi amor. It doesn't mean just my love. You could say those words carry a lot of meaning. And I think that's why we need all our languages. We should never homogenize down to just English or just whatever other dominant language, because we miss all those little nuances that make us feel close to one another. And if you speak Quechua, too, all the little adding cha to everything, adding the yi means it's a way of showing affection. So how are you? My little friend, as it means you and I are close. You and I have, but if you were not close, then it would be just very simple words without all those extra syllables. And it's something we don't have in English. We either, hello, Al, hi, Al, hi, Al. That's all we have. We have no way of saying if Al is my best friend or if he's the banker ready to give me a loan. And I love how in Spanish we can use, the little diminutives, and in Quechua as well. You can kind of learn a lot about the speaker and what's going on by the words, how we choose to say the words we choose.
What is the recipe for your favorite Peruvian dish?
Oh my goodness. Street corner choclo con queso. Choclo is the ears of corn, but in Peru, the ears of corn kernels of corn are amazingly large. And you don't have it with butter. You have it with queso, with farmer's cheese. And when it's on the street corner, there is nothing other than rocoto relleno that tastes that good. It's just absolutely amazing. And you always must eat respectfully. You have to take the first bite off and give it to Pachamama, and then you eat kernel by kernel. You never eat like this, because all the street vendors will say Americans eat like chanchos. Americans, if you eat your gourd like this, everyone will be saying under their breath, that you're eating like a cuchi, like a pig or a chancho.
Almost all of Daria's comments and stories seem to involve and include music, melodies, instruments, and beats, whether I can hear them in her voice or see them in her actions. So it is a great advantage that we're connected by video and can see each other, because Daria loves to speak with her hands a lot and frequently resorts to body language.
What's the coolest sound you've heard recently, and how could you play it on an instrument right now?
So it would probably be, I'm glad I have these all nearby. Come here, little instrument. I was given this, which is it's a can of pineapple, and I will just need a pick to play this. I always like to tell kids that you can make musical instruments out of anything, and I think my can instrument is one example, just so that they can see. Well, I had heard the song "O When the Saints." Oops. Oops. So a song I haven't practiced in a while. I like this because it allows you to slide and it shows you and do a little bit of that kind of double action there that you would use on a charango or on a mandolin. But I think that sometimes kids will look at formal instruments, like I have a charango here and the 10 strings, and they go, wow, where do I put my fingers? How do I play that? And if you look at a charango player, the hands are flying. How could I do that? But if you introduce them to like this or a dulcimer, and you say, okay, so this is 1, and this is 2, and this is 3. So you're going to go 2, 2, 3, 4, 0, 2, 3, 4, 0, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 2, 1. I always tell them, if you can count and have a little bit of time, you can play this instrument. So it teaches them that level of satisfaction with themselves. Like, I can do that. It's gratifying. And then from there, if you get excited about it, all of a sudden I see them making up their own songs or going, oh, okay, I mastered that. Maybe I could play a ukulele, or maybe I could play a guitar. So I like something that's simple enough, but still expressive. I mean, you can do just happy birthday on this, or, make up your own tunes. And that's why I like it. It's simple, but it lets you add your own flair. And you notice that what you were learning were patterns, 2, 3, 4, 2, or color patterns, because we all are neurologically different. Many of my friends, work exclusively with kids with autism or with other things. And I know, for instance, certain ways of teaching me don't work at all. And other ways of teaching, I can't read a book about something, no matter how well explained. But if somebody shows me how to do it, I can repeat it instantly. I'm very good at repeating sounds, which is what's helped me with languages. But reading it in letters, it's very difficult. Now, I'm sure I could if I needed to, but we all learn differently. And that's why I like music, because it does offer a lot of kinesthetic feeling. You were mentioning colors, numbers. You can approach a student in the way that works for them, so they don't feel like, oh, if I'm not doing it that way, I'm a failure. No, we're just going to keep going till we find the way that connects with you, or we find the instrument that connects with you, because it may be a matter of a match with a drum, or a match with a thumb piano, or a match with a stringed instrument or a flute. who knows? Everyone has a kind of magic, and life is here to kind of find and follow it.
So again, Daria knows that empathy is one of the best ways of learning, especially for younger children, which is something else she tries to take into account as part of her performances.
Please explain today's word to a toddler.
I'm not sure I would. I would just play with them and continue, because we're all going to grow into language at our own time. So I would just play with the level they were at and try to move them gently to the next level, as opposed to trying to kind of, bring them up to a certain understanding. My Greek mother-in-law would always play with the kids doing a Greek patty cake called palamakia. And she would sing the palamakia, but the kids were more obsessed with how you slap your knees or tap your thing. So I think that the more time you spend around a child, you see if they're cued by the verbal part, or if they're cued by the movement and the sound, or if they're cued by whatever they like, or if they really like a challenge. Let's play this game and let's see if you can win. Or if they like more cooperative, where we sing together, where we sing faster, we sing slower. I try to find out what they love. When you find out what they love, that's kind of, the Walden School of Teaching, find a child's passion and kind of move with that, because once you move with that, you can incorporate everything. But if you try to just push them, say they're nonverbal, that doesn't mean there's not a million things you can't do that are completely expressive, even if we're not using language. The old, I think it's an idiom or a saying that why the Native Americans say we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, because we're supposed to listen twice as much as we speak. And if you follow that, you can't go wrong.
So what would you like to perform or play that sums it all up?
Oh, I'd love to bring my Pueblo drum up. I'm just going to take a second to get it up on my lap. It's a little bit of a heavier drum. It's made from a cottonwood tree, and I'm going to lift it up here. Oh. And rather than use a beater, I'm just going to use my hand. Gaiuani, gaiue, gaiuani, gaiue, wei ho, hawi, 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 gaiuani, gaiue, gaiuani, gaiue, wei ho, hawi, 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 gaiuani, gaiue, gaiuani, gaiue, wei ho, hawi, hawi, hawi. The song is in Haudenosaunee. It's in, and the word "guy" means good, and it's just a song used, for dancing and for powwows. And I learned it from Joanne Shenandoah, who is one of the just most amazing, culture bearers.
Music is definitely second nature to Daria, and often makes it into her answers to my questions, her stories and comments, and even into a reading performance of a poem written by Carl Sandburg entitled Number Man.
I'm not sure let me see. Oh, I see it right here. Ha. Number Man. Oh, why can't I see the bottom? Oh, here it goes. So, he was born to wonder about numbers. He balanced 5 against 10. He made them sleep together, love each other. He took 6s and 7s, set them wrangling and fighting over raw bone. Now we gotta move the thing. He woke up using 4s out of baby sleep and touched them back to sleep. He managed 8s and 9s, gave them prophet beards, marched them onto mists and mountains. And he added all the numbers he knew, multiplied them by newfound numbers, called it a prayer of numbers. One of a million cipher silences, he dug up a mate number, for a candlelight in the dark. He knew love numbers, luck numbers, how the sea and stars were made and held by numbers. Do, 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 do. He died from the wondering of numbering. He said goodbye as if goodbye were a number. And he made it into a prayer of numbers.
How could code numbers trigger one's imagination?
I would say through patterns, in the same way. I do have a friend that's a mathematician and an astrologer, and to him numbers are as beautiful as shapes and colors. And it's not my passion, but through his eyes, I've seen that. The way they move around, the way they can solve problems. It is magic. And I think when you love someone, you see the things they love through their eyes. And if you don't understand 100%, you can at least appreciate. And it's like my husband loves cars and how they work and function. It is the most boring thing in the world to me. But through his eyes, you can see how there's this kind of magic that makes raw metal turn into a purring engine. And when we love, we expand the way we see things. And that's just the coolest thing.
So, but if we get deeper down to the meaning of this poem, what does it teach us?
I'm not certain. I think I'd have to kind of sit with it a while. But I think that what I see is his appreciation of it. His world in this poem, he's wrapped up in what those symbols mean. And somebody could do a Sufi poem about freedom, and I could get all wrapped up in their symbolism for freedom, even though it might not be my first one. So to me, that's kind of what poetry is that somebody else takes you on a journey through the things that are magnificent to them. And hopefully, your soul resonates with it. But numbers have never been my thing, but I would digest that a little more, because there were a lot of wonderful plays on words and phrases, and I think I missed them by going quickly. So I clearly did not do Mr. Sandberg any justice here.
I already knew that stories are teachings, but what I'm learning from Daria, or better, what I'm reminded of, is the fact that games can be teachings too. In addition to that, I learned a great deal from my conversation with Daria about a wide-ranging field of topics, including how to engage and educate children in a playful manner. That's her way. That's who she is. Daria has seen so many things all over the world, so why would she keep those experiences and observations to herself? That's why she also tells me the story of a children's game up in Alaska, a so-called rain game that has the power of turning the ugliest and grayest day into a colorful experience of beauty.
I would love to sing a Quechua song, but I need my chapchas for it. And I thought I had them right here. Let me see if I can find them. Come here. Oh no, I'm missing my goat toenail rattles. So, wait, they may be here. Many noises from items falling. Here we are. Toenails of goats. They're chapchas, but they go with this song. It's a song kids would sing to tease one another. Yow, yow, puka puyeras jai. Yow, yow, puka puyeras jai. Imataruan kisara ukupi. Imataruan kisara ukupi. Tai tai ki mamai ki wiyai kamusa. Tai tai ki mamai Chakrayu kupi, pukyaskai kita. Chakrayu kupi, pukyaskai kita. Make them sound like a rain stick. And toenails of goats. We use what we have, and it becomes beautiful. There's a game, there's a traditional game in Alaska called the rain game, and that children sit on the floor, and they, the teacher says, well, we're going to have a rainstorm now. And the children make the sound of the rain on the ground, or they tap books. But the teacher or the leader, whoever comes up, and she starts and says, okay, it's raining a little over here. So the students have to go like that. Oh, it's raining a lot. And then over here, no, the whole room is raining. But what it is it's a fun game, but it's also listening and instructions. And when the whole room is raining, it's just this really fun thing. Then she says, okay, so-and-so needs to come up and be that. And then they get the chance to orchestrate. Okay, it's not raining anywhere. Now it's only raining a little. And you wouldn't believe the fun that people have simply with tapping with their fingers on a book or the floor, but creating a rainstorm in a community room. It's, again, these are the games that teach us cooperation and listening and the fun of doing it together with your friends. and kids learn best when they're having fun.